match that was the main event of the show last night. It's streamed on our awesome app, Impact Plus, only $7.99 a month. Check it out. So I honestly don't know what our match is going to be tomorrow. I hope we can still beat the living crap out of Willie Mack and Rich Swann. Whether they're 100% or not doesn't mean anything to us. Our number one goal is obviously having match of the night and retaining our titles.
I mean, I'm just personally excited because we won these championships the last time we were in Texas, 2 days before Slammiversary, and now to come back to Dallas, having 8 months as tag team champions, and just show up and show out like we usually do.
And add a little bit more personal. It was annoying to us that when we found out LAX was leaving, that we heard a lot of rumbling that people thought the tag team division would fall apart, and we kind of tried to put it on our backs to make sure that didn't happen. And now 8 months later, people are finally agreeing with us that we've kept the tag team division alive, and we're doing our best to still make Impact Wrestling the best company with the best tag matches. And yeah, you can thank us for that. So let's enjoy the pay-per-view tomorrow.
Question?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Cool. Nick Hausman, Wrestling Inc. If not Rich Swann and Willie Mack tomorrow, which tag team do you feel would be deserving to step up? Do you have a preference of anyone you'd like to work with?
The Rock and Sock Connection would be my number one choice.
Great.
My number 2 choice would be the Motor City Machine Guns. And my 3rd choice would be the Rascals, and not the Rascals that we beat last night. I think, obviously, Trey Miguel is the solo act out of the 3. He's wrestling for the X Division title tomorrow. I would prefer to have Zachary Wentz and Dez to really put us to the test. And I don't think we've actually had a tag match against the actual, to us, the team out of the 3 of them. One of our favorite matches of last year in Windsor, Ontario was against the Rascals, but again, it was the same combination of Dez and Trey. And we've yet to have Zach and Dez together and really put us to the test. So if they were to pull them out and put another team in, that would be our choice. Boy, I just spoke for Josh. I'm sorry.
No. I'm gonna completely agree with the Rascals, but Zachary Wentz and Desmond Xavier, because I think we've run through all the tag team competitions so far in Impact, and that's the only duo that anybody can talk anything about that we haven't beat. So just knocking one off the list.
So if Willie Mack is still in his match tomorrow, do you have a set game plan going into the match with a versatile athlete like him?
So wait, you're asking us if we have a game plan about 2 of us wrestling one person?
Oh, if he's one of the participants.
Oh, only one of them. No, well, we've been prepping for Willie Mack anyways. So, I mean, if he's in the match, I'll let Josh do this.
I don't think we've been prepping for Willie Mack. Willie Mack's been the weak link the whole time. Rich Swann's obviously the star of the team, the guy that could, like in that gauntlet match, and what was the Access debut the week after?
Yeah.
Like, Rich Swann's a star. He could be a world champion one day. We know that. We'll admit that. And the whole thing's been about Willie. So if Willie wants to find a tag team partner, he wants to try to step to us in a handicap match. I don't think the outcome's gonna be any different than it would have been anyway.
Yeah, he should definitely do what he did with Rich and find someone more talented than himself to carry the team.
Mike Johnson, PW Insider. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Good. You talked about putting the tag team division on your back. What were the highs and lows of that process? And was it a bigger success having good matches, or a bigger success getting everyone to realize, all right, things are going to be fine even though other talents are leaving?
I'll let you take that one.
I mean, I'm a little different than Ethan Page over here.
Yeah.
My big thing was establishing tag team wrestling. I think a tag team match on any show, there's no reason it can't be the best match on a show. I mean, just with the rules, with having the aspect of somebody on the apron, different stuff, like you can put a crowd through so many different emotions having a tag team match. So if we don't have match of the night, that's a disservice to what we've been doing. So it was just me establishing the rules first and foremost, that we are a real tag team. We use the tag ropes every time. The ref, we might use them to our advantage every once in a while, but we exploit tag team wrestling for what it is. And I think it can be the best if it's done right. And not everybody, valued that in the past. So people leave, but we stepped up, and I think we've carried that torch and maybe brought it further than it was even before.
And we hear a lot too that the North is like a throwback to old school tag team wrestling, and I don't think we're a throwback. I just think we're doing it right, and people just forgot their way. That's it.
Miranda Morales with thechairshot.com. So prior to you guys forming as a tag team, you used to face each other a lot on the independent scene. So how did that influence your team dynamic?
Listen, nobody's hit me harder than Josh. Nobody's suplexed me faster than Josh. Nobody's put me on the mat quicker than Josh. Nobody's beat my ass like Josh. We know each other better than anybody else we've ever shared time in the ring with. So I know what he's thinking. We don't have to speak to each other while we're teaming. We just have a connection. We've spent so much time together in the ring all over the world. But we've also teamed before coming to Impact. We have a history together as a tag team. We were one of the best tag teams in the world, and I think that's why Impact decided to give us the opportunity to show the world on a bigger platform and bring us to Impact. And obviously, we're doing the right thing. And yeah, so I think, beating each other up for a little while kind of helped us out.
Yeah, and like in the beginning when we first tagged up, before we ever came to Impact, we just accentuated each other's positives and hid the negatives. Like he was the better talker, I was the more straight-laced wrestler, and through that he's become a better wrestler, I've become a better talker. I'm more comfortable like in this situation than I was before because of him. Like we prop each other up and help each other. And great opponents, we figured out that we could be like even better tag team. So.
David Gracia, Big Gold Bill Media. So a bit of a fluff question for you.
Sure.
Being that you've tagged together for so long and you're pretty much a road relationship almost, do you ever get on each other's nerves? What are some like little idiosyncratics that might irk you about the other person?
Good question. Of course he starts first. He'll have way more to complain about.
No, that's not true at all. I'm going to say, just from a little backstage perspective, we have seen tag teams be at each other's throats arguing over the dumbest stuff, and it's never happened with us.
Yeah.
Like I don't.
I think the biggest thing for us was we know how hard we had to work to get here and how many years it took us to accomplish what we have, and we have too much respect for each other as performers and as entertainers and athletes. No matter what happens backstage, whether we even agree with each other or not, we have each other's back, and that was just a silent agreement that we had when we formed the tag team originally, and it's honestly never left. And I think that's why we're always going to be a cut above everybody else.
I wanted to ask real fast. We were talking with Eddie Edwards earlier about the TNA show coming up in April. I know you're very involved with that, Ethan. I don't know if you have any updates for what people can expect. And we also chatted with him a bit about the possibility of the Wolves reuniting to take on YouTube. Would that be a match that you can?
No, I hate Davey Richards. But Scott Demore is actually over there if you want to ask him about the TNA show. Do you want to answer? Is there any answers?
It's all about you.
Oh, that's true. It is all about me. You know what? No. I don't know anything that you guys don't know at the current moment. All I do know is that the show is happening. Scott Demore did announce it in Chicago. TNA will be coming back for one night, maybe one night only. I'm glad someone laughed at that. Throw back one night pay-per-views. Anyways, I'm excited because as time goes on, the kids that grew up watching TNA, like that was us. We were those children. So now being in this company, knowing the history of this company, knowing what it took to get the company where it is today, it's amazing that we're going to be able to be a part of history, I think, and to be able to, I guess, play in a playground that we weren't allowed to when we watched, and we're getting to bring that back to like 2020, baby, TNA. Like I'm pumped, Josh.
Yeah, like I was a kid wrestling my friends on my trampoline that ran inside on a Wednesday night to order the very first show. And that was the first time I ever saw somebody like Loki and AJ Styles. And that changed everything I thought about professional wrestling. Through them, I found Ring of Honor. Through them, I found all these other things. And I think TNA's history, as you can see on the app, whenever you want, is some of the best wrestling in the world. And that's why all these guys have, they've moved on to be regarded as the best wrestlers in the world. And, just to be part of TNA or now Impact, and then to do the TNA throwback show, I'm honored. I think it's awesome. I'm marking up for it.
And I think that ties into one of the questions earlier about trying to put the tag team division on our back. We have that fond memory of TNA. So we want to be able to give the youth that's watching Impact right now that same experience. So that's why we're always, always, always going to try and have the best match of the show.
You guys both are each from Canada at different points in times. being a Canadian wrestler trying to come to the United States has been a point of frustration for you. What advice do you give to international talents trying to break into the United States where they can get the most exposure, to do it without falling through the pitfalls of, all right, if I go over the border one too many times, I'm going to get snagged, or getting banned from the country like some other talents, not you two, but others has. Like, from your perspective, as someone who's had to overcome all that, what advice do you give to other international performers who are trying to find their way here?
Well, for us, it was always the risk will be worth the reward. And I've had contracts with companies in America without having a work visa. It's terrible. My biggest, I guess, advice would be make sure Scott D'Amore likes you, because he was the first person to actually move forward and get me a work visa to actually make sure that I was legally able to work in this country. He saw the value in myself and Josh to be able to actually provide a living for our families. And it's tough. Like, it's a very expensive process to be able to make this even happen. So it's obviously worth it in the long run. Like, it took us, almost 10 years of crossing over the border. And up until the point we actually came to this company, like, there was no real like income off professional wrestling. Like, it was just such a daunting process to be able to build our names up, to be able to get the opportunity to get the paperwork, just to be like, yep, you can cross the border with no problems. There's no right answer, honestly. It's making my armpits sweat to even talk about it. So yeah.
Sorry.
Get Scott D'Amore to love you. No, it's all right. Josh can answer this one better.
I run a wrestling school in Canada, and all my students, they want to obviously do all this stuff. And I tell them not to do what I did, not to do what Ethan did. Like, we were obsessed. We just took every risk possible, and luckily we didn't get banned, which would have completely screwed up any opportunity for us to be here right now talking to you guys. My suggestion now for everybody is to be the biggest fish in whatever small pond you can be in Canada. Make the biggest name for yourself, so that when you do get booked on these small independent shows, you are booked against people like Ethan or people like Eddie Edwards that might get booked and brought in, so like you can network and make yourself better in those small ponds, and then hopefully somebody recognizes you. The only issue is, like, there's just not enough eyes on all these shows. There's some of the best wrestlers in the world that you'll never see, which is unfortunate, but hopefully through these streaming services and stuff for the independent wrestling shows, more people will see it. So that's the best thing I can say.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's good. You guys want to pose for a photo?
I think I dress like this not to get pictures.